Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guests and delegates to the SCO Film Festival 2023. We have a panel of distinguished personality from the film industry for the panel session. The topic of this discussion is Future of Cinema Distribution in India and Around the World. We are honored to have among us as moderator for this session, Mr. Mayank Shekhar, Indian film critic and head, entertainment. Midday to serve as the moderator for the panel session, Mr. Mayank Shekhar is the first film critic to receive the Ramanath Goenka Journalism Award. His most recent book, Name, Place, Animal, Thing, was a critically acclaimed bestseller on Amazon. His ongoing podcast shows Sits with Hit List and the Bombay Film Story has received numerous awards. He is currently the entertainment head for Midday newspaper, where you can read his film reviews, writings, and MS Word, his weekly column on mass culture cinema. Let's give a huge round of applause to him and let's welcome him. Let me extend a warm welcome to today's panelists. Firstly, let's introduce Mr. Shibasish Sarkar, the leading media and entertainment professional in India and the chairman and CEO of SPAC, International Media Acquisition Corp, a Nasdaq-listed company, IMAC, and the president of Producers Guide of India. Mr. Shibasish has almost 3 decades of corporate experience in handling multiple verticals across films, television, animations, gaming, content, and operations of digital and new media platform. Now let's give a huge round of applause to him, please. Thank you. I am delighted to invite the second panelist, Mr. Sunir Kheterpal, producer, Anthena E&M. Mr. Sunir leads an independent content development and production firm that primarily focuses on feature film underlying material for which comes from a variety of sources including original stories, book adaptations, foreign feature film IP, and real-life events. A number of foreign language films have been adapted by Sunir. He has worked as a media and entertainment industry professional with Adlabs, Reliance Entertainment, and the Hinduja Group on projects involving film acquisition, distribution, and marketing, as well as co-production. Let's give a huge round of applause to him and welcome him. It's my pleasure to invite the third panelist, Mr. Naveen Chandra, founder and CEO, 91 Film Studio. Over 30 years of experience in the Indian and international media and entertainment industries, including broadcast, TV, radio, prints, film, and digital medium. Media operations strategies, business management, international and multicultural marketing, digital product and value creation, leadership and team building are all skills that can be learned from Mr. Chandra, including strategy investment, acquisition, private equity, and venture capital, and to raise a startup fund. He has lived and traveled extensively throughout India, as well as to over 50 countries on 5 continents. Let's give a huge round of applause and welcome him to the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, allow me to extend an invitation to Miss Ning, film director and jury at the SCO Film Festival 2023. Miss Ning is a globally acclaimed and award-winning Chinese film director, often considered a member of China's 6th generation filmmaker. She is known for her films like the Beijing trilogy, Consistency of Forfang on the Best, and I Love You Beijing, that analyzes the massive change has undergone in the recent decade. Railroad of Hope 2002 followed the mass migration of cheap labor throughout China and won the Grand Prix du Cinema. Reel and Motions 2005 premiered at several international film festivals. Let's once again give a huge round of applause to all our panelists and of course our moderator.
It goes without saying, all the panelists here live, love, and breathe cinema, but the point of cinema will be lost if it is not distributed to the public. And clearly, what we're discussing here is the future of that distribution in India and the world, of course. And it has to be said, the time placement of this conversation becomes important. Everything that we say now, because it could be true that for our lifetime anyway, there was a world before the pandemic and there's a world after the pandemic. Everything has changed in some form or the other. We may be in denial of it sometimes. There may be a little bit of amnesia because that's how humans are, self-preservation. Amnesia is a good thing. But the fact is, even with entertainment, there was a world of entertainment that was before 2019. There is a world of entertainment after 2019, and of course, after the pandemic, so to say. I think the first thing that I'd love to discuss with all of you is exactly what do you think has changed when it comes to cinema and distribution pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. I'm going to start with you, Shibasish.
Thanks, Mayank. To start off with, I think the first thing what we should say is that whatever, at least on my behalf, I can say that whatever we are saying here is only an estimation of today. We are only just trying to decipher something, unlearn something, learn something, and making a comment. It can be very realistically possible that 1 year down the line, we'll figure out that whatever we said is something completely on a different zone. And I think before coming to the cinema or before coming to the entertainment, there are certain macro issues which is happening in the globally. And we need to have some inferences of that. Cinema or media of entertainment, if you look, and if we look that 2019, which was prior to the pandemic scenario, vis-a-vis when the pandemic happened, the large western part of the globe, which is basically North America, US, Europe, majority of the countries at that point of time have loosened up their monetary policies. Significant monies have been passed on to the consumer by and large. And by the time the whole pandemic is coming to an end in 21-22 or 2021 and 21-22, we are figuring that half of the world, a large part of the world, or the people who are spending money in the world are all through a serious inflation, steep inflation. Every government, whether it is the US government or the European governments, they are all tightening up the monetary policy, sucking out the monies from the market, but the inflation is steeper. It is almost going to a situation that today if the Fed rate is hovering around 4.75, they are saying they will go to some 5.25 kind of a scenario. Technically we use this term called a stagflation. It's almost looking like that there is a recession now in one end, that both entire North America as well as the European scenario of the world, we are seeing that the recession is looming. At the same point of time, the large technology companies, and if you look at the media technology companies, they have been going through a horrible situation. All are public market companies, starting from your Apple to Netflix to Amazon to Disney, Facebook, Google, you name a company. All are public market companies. In the calendar year 22, they have lost anything between 40 to 70% of the market cap. Billions and billions of dollars they have lost market cap. So when you look at a distribution arm of the scenario, we are seeing 2 or 3 red flags post-pandemic. One, I'm not even coming to consumer preference. I'll come to the consumer preference. We'll hear from some other people's thought process also. We are seeing one red flag, there is a recession looming globally. If the recession is looming globally, normal decipher is that ad spend will be less. If the ad spend is less, then you don't expect that much of money coming into broadcasting and to the AVOD platforms. If the money is coming less, they will either sack people, remove cost, cut down the budget. Can't blame. That is the reality of this. That is the reality what we're looking at 23. 22, the top 10 platforms, all large multinational, all global listed companies in NASDAQ or NYSE of the world, lost 50% of the market cap by an average. The last one, we have seen like how Bob Chapek has been removed unceremoniously and Bob Iger came back after a $1.5 billion Disney, right? Loss in Disney, right? So signals in large corporations who are pumping in money in this sector, they are all in a situation that boss, things are wrong. And things are not getting corrected in 23 Because if there is a recession looming, then who is going to spend money? The brands are not going to spend money. The corporates are not going to spend money. If they're not going to spend money, you can't get that money for the content. If you can't get the money for the content, quality of the content or number of contents will be low. If both the things are low, then of course, why audience will come back? It's a vicious cycle. India is probably one decimal in the global scenario. So we'll come to the Indian situation. Actually, probably in India, we are a little better off than the global scenario. But the global scenario, at least in the West, is looking like that. China economy, in probably for multiple reasons, whether it's a COVID or non-COVID, they are not showing the kind of growth what was people were expecting globally from China or India. Good part is at least in the last 2 months, we are seeing that it has become widened up and probably things people are coming out. The governments are not that much of restrictions, but definitely not the kind of growth what was there in 2019. So if you look at the global scenario, it is a grim scenario where a recession is looming. The large corporates have lost significant amount of money. No money is pumping into the content of the world. The content creators better should learn or understand that what is the larger writing on the wall. That is on the creation side, as we can see from from the scenario. One good thing, out of all the grim situations, one good thing which is happening globally, or at least in the US market, is in the last 2 years or last 3 years, there is a significant growth of the FAST. FAST is basically your free ad revenue driven streaming platform. So they have came with a concept, no, I won't say a concept, a new medium of streaming, where now we are used to first is a SVOD, like Netflix of the world, you and me, everybody have taken a subscription. Many of these companies are going into AVOD, which is last year, Netflix as well as Disney, Amazon, a lot of them launched their AVOD platform. The platform which is picking ground in the last 2 years, and last year was a significant growth, it is absolutely free. It has to be completely ad driven, but they will run the programs of the basic pay TV. So that means, Mayank, you as a consumer, you want to see a particular serial in Star Plus. I don't want to see at 8 o'clock. Earlier I used to see in Disney Plus, but I used to take a subscription. Now there will be a platform, no subscription. I can see at night 12 o'clock or morning 9 o'clock, same serial, it has to be ad driven. That market has been booming in US.
Interesting.
It is booming in US, and they are saying the FAST is the only hope. It is dependent on ad, but at least there is one market which is booming in US. Look at the scenario of the theatrical. Theatrical scenario globally, I think 2019 we are at $42 billion globally, box office, which current year looks like, current year means the year which ended 22, which looks like at best 70-75% of the recovery. So it will be still 25% down. One way of looking is like your glass is half full or half empty kind of scenario. At least one way of looking that we have gone up to from a zero situation to 75% up. The other situation, we are still not in the pre-pandemic zone. The scary part there, I won't say scary, maybe a new model will evolve, is that for the film or the content, where there is a pull, those numbers are going through the roof. So you are getting a Top Gun Maverick, you are getting an Avatar, you are getting a Pathan, you are getting a RRR, you are getting a KGF 2. So where if audience wants to go to a particular cinema, the physical footfall and the numbers are growing through a roof, but by and large they are not going majority period of the year. So maybe as a value based or footfall based at the end of the year, we'll reach a some number. But by and large for the larger industry, we still have to, I'm saying globally, everybody is, if all exhibitors or producers are thinking through that how do we achieve an industry with 10 films working in the year. In US it is happening for almost a decade. Your Marvel and DC and franchise are only working. The same trend is happening now here. Then in the year 10 films audience will go and see in big number, unprecedented number, but another 90 films I have no interest to go at all. Whether I will wait for a free TV or right. etc. So anyway, I don't think I've got too many good things to talk, but at least it is a time for that we should be careful about and see how the market is over here.
It has been a depressing start, I have to say. This conversation on a very depressing note. But of course, we're talking about recession, and that is a fact, that is a reality. There are a lot of people seem to sort of observe, at least in the West. But I have to agree with you on one thing, though, is that 75% is the return of the footfall in the multiplex or the theatrical market, right? Which is not so bad, which is not so bad. But the point being, and I want both of you to jump in on this, both Sunir and Naveen, there is a perception that now there is such a thing as a theatrical movie, which means a spectacle of a certain kind. Those are the only ones that work. Of course, you have an exception here and there, say a Kashmir Files, that did exceedingly well, and was a political film, all right, but it was also a low-budget movie. But by and large, it has to be that spectacle, otherwise not. Do you think that's true? Or is it just a phase right now?
So, Shibasish has spoken at length about a very important parameter, which is the macroeconomic situation and how that is affecting film-going audiences and the platforms and, all over the world. I just want to take a consumer perspective, and I think what has happened, coming back to your previous question, and then I'll relate it to this. We as human beings, we are slaves of our habits. So what happened in 2019 onwards is that our habits have changed. Movies used to come earlier. I used to watch a movie in theaters every week. And I think a lot of people used to do that. When people like us, who are the avid movie watchers, we stop going to theater for each and every movie, it's primarily because for 2 years we were at home and we knew something is there on TV, so why should we go to the theater? This habit is responsible for a large non-attendance, in across the medium budget films, across the adult skewing subjects. Today we have Pathan, where more number of people are going than ever have gone in 5 days for any film.
Ever. I mean,
ever.
even pre-pandemic.
Ever.
Right.
So I was just thinking before coming to this session that one question has already been answered on Thursday, Wednesday, when this film released. As consumers, when people start talking positively about cinema-going audience and about the cinema experience, about the community experience, maybe 3 more films like this will start skewing the needle back into a situation where our habits will start changing again, that we'll start saying, oh, let's go to the theater, let's not watch it on TV. So I think what pandemic has done is it has accelerated what was happening in Hollywood, let's say 10 years back. I mean, in close to 2000, they shifted to the Marvels and special effects because they couldn't afford the $25 million fee which actors were charging, but they had the VFX experience. Now we are seeing in our industry that it is not only important to have a top star. Top star definitely has the pull, and we have enough evidence to show if a movie is reasonably good, people will come and watch it. Second thing what has happened is in the last 2.5, 3 years, this social media and the buzz around the movie. See, earlier you spent on P&A and you were almost guaranteed that opening weekend will be there. Today, that situation doesn't exist because you don't know whether Friday night will be there or not. So people have started saying, oh, Friday morning is slow, it'll pick up on Friday night, let's see what happens on Saturday. So this whole mechanism which has been created now, there is no guarantee. Also, when you start marketing something, earlier we used to have a 3-month campaign, 4-month campaign, 6-month campaign. I think now the audience likes something, wants to see something. They want that final experience to happen much more quicker, which is also resulting in, in our minds, we just don't have that much of time space. Films will come, films will go. I think what is happening, coming back to Shibashish explanation on the platforms and the studios, is big films will always have an audience. They will always have the non-theatrical revenues coming in. Everybody wants those films because in India or overseas or globally, everybody is seeking out those films. The problem is for those films which needed to have legs, which needed to have a positive word of mouth, which needed to have support of non-theatrical. I think that's being affected by all these problems coming from that the broadcasters have less money because the ads are not coming, because we are in a recession, because companies are making lower profits to market and all. So I think everything is related, but from a consumer perspective, the major change is that habits take some time COVID was a aberration and it hastened a lot of things. It will take some time, but we are hoping that things will be all right going forward.
Well, I mean, one of the things that is always true, even if there is recession in the market, is that entertainment doesn't suffer. People still want to go and watch movies. Back in 1929, depression, the movies were doing exceedingly well, I guess, because they don't have the money to do all other things. Do you think, Naveen, no matter what happens, the fact is that theatres will always remain the number one outdoor entertainment in India regardless? It's not like we have too many options anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so just to answer your earlier question
Yes.
on what has changed after the pandemic and before, I think a lot has changed and a lot has not changed, right? I think two significant things that have changed. And before I come to that, I just want to ask the audience, how many of you here have seen Pathan? Yeah.
How many times?
So I think the interesting thing is the two things that have changed. First that has changed is that a lot of people have become digital now, right? People have got time. People have opened demat accounts. I mean, in the country, demat account went through the roof because people sat at home. They said, I can trade now. So people have understood digital. Those who didn't have social media, they got social media. Those who never watched a television movie on OTT, they got to see a movie on OTT. So people transitioned to digital during the pandemic. So that change happened. And to add to Sunir, what's also happened is they've also become reviewers now. So even a normal guy reviews a movie. And in fact, if you go to a movie theater today, in the first 5 minutes, they're posting the review. First 5 minutes, they got in,
That's so true. I mean, I used to be a film reviewer.
Right.
Now everybody is.
Everybody is. And everybody, whether he has an opinion, he's understood the movie, he's got an opinion on that movie. So that started. To an extent, it's good. To an extent, it's bad because it affects the movie and so on and so forth. Pathan, same thing happened. A lot of people initially went with negative reviews. Now they're saying, boss, I saw the movie with a negative in mind. Now I'm going back again to see it with positive in mind. So I think there's all of that's happened. The second big thing that happened is regional sort of came to the fore. So I was also shocked. I mean, I've been chasing regional for the last 5-6 years now. I was also shocked to see a Sadaji watching a Malayalam movie, Malayali watching a Bengali movie. This has not happened before. Right? You would stick to the genre that you understand, the language that you understand. Today you consume a movie in any language. I mean, a fitting example of that is the 2019 best Oscar movie, not the best international, best Oscar movie is a Korean movie. Right? And all he said in his speech, the director said that, listen, just climb 2 feet of subtitles and you can understand any movie. I think that transition has happened.
And that transition that probably started with television and maybe OTT platforms, do we see that in the theatre?
It has so in the theatre now, in fact, there's somebody here who's also doing a live technology. So you can actually go to a theatre now, watch a Hindi movie. If you're a Tamilian, you can get the dialogues in Tamil. So I think it's pushing the boundary to that. Hollywood also realized that regional is the way to go. In 2016, when they released Jurassic Park, it was the first movie that crossed 100 crores for Hollywood because they did it in 5 languages. And after that, all movies have started coming in 5-6 languages. So much so, Fast and Furious actually had a trailer in 9 languages. Fast and Furious 9, they had a trailer in Bhojpuri. They had a trailer in Gujarati. They didn't have the movie in Bhojpuri and Gujarati or Punjabi, but they had a trailer in those 3 languages too. So people are reaching out in their own languages, and that I think has accelerated in the pandemic. It's a big change. So today, regional is not is not something that you don't consume. It's just any one of those languages that you try to consume. The 2 things that have not changed, right, and I don't think they will change. First, Indians don't have a hobby, right? 99% of Indians don't have a hobby, right? So for them, this is their favorite pastime. This is it. You go to a theatre, air-conditioned theatre, sit for 3 hours. You may not have AC at home. You may not have, you come there 3 hours, you go with your wife, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, friends, watch a movie and come back. It's the favorite pastime. As human beings, we are not built. We've got 2 legs. We're not built to sit at home and binge watch for 12 hours. We're not built for that. In the pandemic, we were forced to do that. But that's not a natural thing. We're not naturally, we are mobile people here. We've got 2 legs, that's why, right? So you got to move around. So you can't just sit and watch for 24 hours. You did it. In the pandemic, you were forced to do that. But now you won't. You'll say, listen, I want to get out. And where do you do? I mean, you go to the beach one day, but then you go back to the movie theatre again. So a lot more people will go back to the movie theatre. So that, I think, has not changed. It's a question of readjusting their life again. And a lot of people are also facing OTT fatigue. I mean, my personal example, I spend 30-40 minutes just trying to find what to watch. And then I abandon it and say, let me see one movie in Malayalam, right? So, I mean, that's sort of started happening. The other thing that's not changed, right, and I think significantly that will also not change, is that there is nothing called big movie and small movie. There's only good movie and bad movie, right? I don't think we can say that Juk Juk Jio was a theatrical movie. It was not. What Juk Juk Jio is a TV movie. Where is spectacle in that? Where was spectacle in Drishyam 2? There's no spectacle. That movie's already come on Amazon in Malayalam, the original, if you've seen.
Yeah, it's a scene by scene.
Scene by scene.
Yeah.
So why would you go and see? You saw it. I mean, it clocked the numbers it did because it is not a spectacle movie. So I think that difference of being a good movie and a bad movie will remain. There is no difference called spectacle movie or not. I mean, we can debate till the cows come home, but the essence of the movie business is that you make a good film and people will come. People will come and watch. I mean, there's a Marathi movie.
Of course, what is good is also subjective.
Yeah, no,
what may
there's
be
a
good for
Marathi
you
movie.
may not be.
No, I know, but I'm saying there's a Marathi movie called Wade.
Right.
We just released. There is a Malayalam movie called, Jai Jai Hey, right? Jai 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 Hey.
A Malayalam film, yes.
Spectacular films. I mean, normal films that you could normally see on television. People go to theaters and watch and clock big numbers. Wade, they're saying now is going to clock 70 to 80 crores. I mean, it's a spectacular number for Hindi. It's not even a spectacle movie like Sairat was, which is the last Marathi film that clocked the number. So I think good movie, bad movie, subjectively, like you said, obviously, people will consume. That will not change, and I think the habit of watching TV, watching movies in the theater, will not change. I think those two things will not change.
I have to come to you, Ning, and living here in India, we've always looked at China with all the curiosity we possibly can, especially the entertainment side of China, because we've always quoted how India has about, say, 4,000 or 5,000 screens, but China has 82,000 screens. I mean, that's a huge market that's done exceedingly well as a domestic territory. What changed with the pandemic?
Last information from China, because right now it's just the Spring Festival, for the Chinese Happy New Year. So it's really for the movie seasons, best distribution moments. So always all the biggest blockbuster films will release during these 10 days. And the last two films is almost already reaching 3 billion. Two films. So it seems pandemic didn't disturb the distribution market at all, I would say. I think if the big theaters movie is dying, it's already dying for a long time for some other reasons. For example, if you learn the music, your parents or your teacher will never tell you, oh, okay, listen to this music from my radio, from my phone. They will bring you in a concert and you will, the music means this. If you want to learn the ballet, you will see, okay, I will bring you to the best ballet, you will see it. No, you won't say, see, you can dance in this way. You'll never learn. So I think it's my very personal, revolutionary way of dreaming tomorrow. What is way to let the cinema last as an art form? I think the only way is obligation in the old schools. During the study the movies, you have to watch on a big screen. You have to select the best catalog of the movie titles, really valuable, worth to watch on a big screen. For example, last film of Woody Allen, I don't remember the title. What is the title? It's he's making fun about the film festival, and in that film he remake some piece of Bergman, Fellini, and he makes some moments of the film. He choose maybe 5 or 6 directors' film and remake, but put that in the film. So you can see why a certain director can born, why they become a film director or genius or great, because inspired really from the original in the right way. They got influenced by the big screen. But you cannot imagine everybody go to big screen. Big screen will survive only blockbuster movie or social meaning in certain territory. For example, in China, last film Zhang Yimou, in the end of film, the people together in the theater yell a certain antique text, because it's a very very Chinese, and we feel that reading this antique text in a certain rhythm, in an antique way, you feel the blood become to blow out, you know. It's like an Indian movie when you see you want to stand up to dance together with. So all interactive movie with some social ethic, social reason in there, all blockbuster movie. And no way to force the people go to theater to watch a art movie. I'm saying it with a pain because I did my first movie is for the tickets. It's a big success commercial. And then later I said, I will never do it again. I want to do the art movie, you know. So I asked my studio support me only with the art movie. So I say it with a pain, art movie, you won't have big screen chance anymore. It's useless to dream it. Sometimes I try to talk, my producer says, look, if somebody pay you all at once, good money on the platform, I won't have problem. Distribute it like that way. Because it's very important as a producer, you got the money back. It's not my personal honor. I will have honor in some festival, it's fine. Oh, I have or I won't have, it's fine. But very important that like products can earn money, can continue, producer can keep invest to a new film. So I think it's big screen film is dying.
So when you say pick a movie like, and this was the big news in India pre-pandemic, we were stunned by two films that did exceedingly well. There were Bollywood movies in China where Amir Khan was the big star over there. Say a Dangal or a film like The Secret Superstar. Would you think these are art house films or are they big screen films? Have you seen them though?
Yeah. I have seen twice.
Okay.
Because we have another title, so I always difficult to remember the original.
Dangal? So
Dangal.
What is Dangal called in China?
Dangal just 对，怎么说 ？Wrestling again, Papa. Papa, do the wrestling.
The wrestler grandfather. The wrestler Papa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
I think it's a better title.
And I see twice. I don't think Indian films go well in China because of big star. I think because the film itself really well done. Really well done.
But how do you explain that phenomenon?
Can I answer this question?
Yeah.
So, what is Dangal about? Dangal is about a man, a wrestler, who's himself not very successful. He says, my kids will become wrestlers, champion wrestlers. He gets a daughter. He gets another daughter. He gets a third daughter, and he gets a fourth daughter. What does he do? He makes them wrestlers. And they actually win Olympic gold medals and all that, right? Now go to China. You are a wrestler. China's state policy says, have one kid. You got a daughter. What do? Sitting at home. Watch this movie, you say, listen, why can't she be a wrestler? The story traveled. Right? To everybody in China who had a daughter, he says, this girl can do it. Let me do it. The story traveled, right? Secret Superstar, same story. Suppressed environment, breakout. And there you have a single child. So, if the Bahubali will not travel to China, Bahubali is there's nothing in Bahubali that travels to China. Dangal will. Secret Superstar will. And maybe some movies. So the story essentially has to travel, then it works. Otherwise, other movies will...
Do you agree with him?
Oh, I don't...
Did they see the government in the wrestling, Papa? That the state will actually take someone from a family and train them to win an Olympic gold, right?
Yeah.
That's what the state does. And in this case, that's what the father does in the movie. Did you see any parallels there, or did you respond to it because of its emotions?
I think that movie goes well because the film itself well done, and also this kind of inspirational film, this kind of genre, sport inspirational, it's not really easy kind to make well, but once it's make well, always good to the market because really. The spirit of inspirational, you can win. It's combined with inspirational spirit with the sport. So I think that film goes.
Did
well,
people want to watch Lal Singh Chadda by the same actor when it came out late last year? Did the Chinese people? It hasn't released that. Would it have a market in China if
but last year, these 3 years, I was outside, couldn't find the tickets to go back, so I didn't see it. Yeah.
But Three Idiots, to the point, did
Yes,
very
so I
well.
think the beginning is Three Idiots. Shibasish, were you at Reliance when Three Idiots happened? Because the phenomenon really begins from Three Idiots, where people in China saw it on YouTube and they loved it and they became his fan.
So I'll tell you something. I mean, it's nothing to do with the film. There are two emotions which work for Indian films in China. It either has to be inspiration film or aspiration film, right? If there is an inspiration or aspiration as a story, as Naveen is saying that it's correct that action is of no use because their quality of actions are far superior of the local films. I have released 3 films in China in my career. I've released Three Idiot, I have released Toilet, Ek Prem Katha, and then I have released Andhadhun. Three Idiots in the very early days, while we all got excited, but finally the kind of box office what it did was not that exciting to the
People had already
subsequent.
seen it on the internet?
No, I don't think we could have got the best distributor. We are not have marketed well. The first film, lot of emotion. India, it has done huge numbers. So we are almost like an euphoria, and some additional numbers have happened. Subsequently, Three Idiots did much better number in Japan, much better number in Korea, and etc. When Toilet released, the Toilet Ek Prem Katha released, it did an equivalent box office as India. It did to some 140 crore box office there. And the best was Andhadhun, it went to some 350, 360 crore box office. So, because local language films in China in over a period is not more than 200 odd films. They made 600 odd films, 400 odd films directly go to the platforms of the world. So, lot of films like maybe a Taiwanese film, maybe a Korean film, maybe an Indian film with the quotas and everything.
That's
in
a
the place.
10% international production, would that be correct?
No. Every country has a different quota.
Oh, every country has a
Every
separate
country. Hollywood has a 32, 33 number of quota.
Okay.
And then India in those days used to have around, I think, 4 as a quota. But again, it is a block of countries. So in some year, Taiwan maybe get more and India. So it is quite a journey because I've released 3 films because 3 film censor I have been able to do. That itself is an achievement. But anything which is inspiring or aspiring, those stories connect very well. Because I think as people, we are very close. Our belief, as a normal people in the situation, our beliefs, expectation, aspirations are very close. The family and understanding. Even if you remove the whole, the government theory and etc., that doesn't matter, the normal people at the end of the day. But comedy doesn't work. Action doesn't work. Good kind of horrors have worked from other countries, not necessarily from India, but some good horror films from Thailand and as well as Japan came to China and did big numbers. Any intelligent film works well. Anything like I'll be very interested to see, and I don't know whether it has released or not, whether films like Drishyam should do well in that market logically, because any kind of intelligent film, audience lap it up, and of course then subsequently is the number of screens, and even at 5%, 7% is the occupancy, you get that number.
Right.
The theaters don't have more occupancy than that, but you get that number.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy market to be
I
in.
want to add a point on Three Idiots. So I still have the photograph with me in Beijing. Three Idiots in China. Three Idiots is the largest pirated DVD in the country from India, right? Everybody has a pirated DVD of Three Idiots in China. So it's
What
like
photograph do you have?
a photograph of me with a poster of Three Idiots and a restaurant that says this is the most pirated DVD.
But that's, again, China is that story. It's a pre-pandemic story. There is no doubt in anyone's mind that the post-pandemic story is actually RRR, isn't it? Here is a movie that went on Netflix. The public watched it. So that's the distribution part of it. The challenge, the bottleneck was already taken care of because people got to see it. And then they demanded, they clamored for a theatrical release of that film, which killed it. And then here we are at the Oscars, right? Take us through that, guys. Do you think that is where the future is? In the sense, people will sample it, and then they might want to watch it in a theater.
So just a simple statistic that of some data that released 2 weeks back. There was this Omax and Group M media study that tabulated the box office of 2022 films through the year, and they compared with 2019. So 2022, technically, because 2 months there was still pandemic and all theaters were not open, has the largest ever box office collection ever in India, right? The number is about 200 to 300 crores less than 2019, but that's because the 2 months, and the lesser number of films in 2022 compared to 2019.
Right.
So that's been the largest ever. Last year has been largest, and everybody's predicting that 2023 will be the highest ever box office for India. In China, for the first 25 days of box office, is the highest ever in China in the first 4 weeks of Chinese box office. So I think box office is good.
Right,
People
but
are
I
getting
mean,
back.
there was a sense, and this is a problem that a lot of filmmakers from across the world felt, is that they couldn't reach the theater. Now, if someone can access you on a Netflix or an Amazon, you can then enter theater. So do you think that could be a way for filmmakers to sort of enter that market through an OTT and then get to theater eventually? Is there anything to be learned from RRR?
I think it's very difficult to make a film which will travel like some of these successful films travel. I'm going to come back to RRR, but you make Hidden, the Chinese film which really break through, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
2000, yeah.
Nobody expected it to break through. It did break through. Then they tried it with Keanu Reeves. They tried it with several other people. It didn't. So films happen. I mean, if it was that easy, it would be very easy.
Yeah.
So Andhadhun happened. Andhadhun went to China, where you have people clamoring for inspirational stories or aspirational stories. There was nothing in Andhadhun which was inspirational or aspirational, so films happen.
But he also said intelligent, so I guess it was an intelligent film.
No, there is.
I think one point I'll just agree. I think all of us agree. None of us understand anything at the starting premise.
And we don't know.
We only try to infer some trend. Worst part of now 22 or 23 is that whatever we have learned in last 30, 40 years has to be unlearned. Because we are just trying to understand trend. I would have been happy if I would have foolish as Naveen. Because it's absolutely no producer, no distributor have any clue why something should work. It was always there that you can't plan to make a successful film.
So it's a post-fact analysis anyway.
Yeah, real conversation.
Always that.
Yeah.
2 months back, and he will totally relate to it. When you talk to the talent, the first thing that they say is we should make something. Everybody actually who gives you money, they want to see something like KGF. Next week they will say we want something like Pathan.
Correct.
2 months back, I do a lot of adaptations from various countries. 2 months back, people were saying remakes won't work. We need entertainment.
Then Drishyam 2 happened.
We need comedy. We need songs. We need good-looking posters. And then Drishyam came. There's nothing youth in it. There's nothing for 18 to 25 target audience, which people think is the core thing required. There was no song. But look at the business that film has done. So films happen. The business happens. We can't. It's not a formula. I mean, we all are trying. And the catch is, how do you be proactive in a reactive industry or a reactive ecosystem? Let's say I want to do romantic comedy. Romantic comedy, everybody knows, is not a genre which goes to theaters anymore. But I'm a big believer that at some point in time it will make a comeback. So I want to make a romantic comedy, but every
Ticket to
person,
Paradise did really well.
it did for that specific
Right,
audience. I
right.
mean, you put George Clooney and
Julia
Julia
Roberts,
Roberts, it works. The thing is that if I want to make it and I go to Shibashish, listen, I've got this idea. If I go to actor, so let's say Shibashish is Moneybags. And
What do you mean, let's say he is? You don't need to assume.
okay, so I need money from him. I need to cast him. And I need to cast Deepthi as the leading actors. And it's a rom-com. Everywhere there will be challenge because people will start saying...
Yeah, the casting
people
is
will
happening.
start saying that, listen, this doesn't work. It works only on Netflix, so you should make an OTT film. But I don't want to do OTT film. These things which are around us, they have been created by us because we want to be, reactive to what is happening around us. RRR question. Sorry, I have this habit of going into my thoughts. RRR question. I don't think it's possible to release a film on digital and that should result in traction or a pressure for a theatrical release. That doesn't happen. There will always be outliers. There will always be exceptions. So you will have RRR doing great in Japan. Last week was doing X number. And when this Natu Natu thing happened, it is doing 6 times that business, so it happens in Japan. It will happen in specific territories. More and more people in LA will go and watch it, but it gives a lot of visibility to us. These kind of films happen once in a while. They are good for the health. They are good for the ecosystem. But I don't think you can create, you can't say, okay, I'll put this on Netflix and in some country it will get theatrical release, even if it does. And unless it is China, it doesn't help anyone. If it is China, it helps a lot if the film breaks through, like a Secret Superstar did, or a Dangal did, or Andhadhun did, you know.
And just to add to that, what also happens is that a theatrical release is actually a tool to discover the film. Only then people know that there is a film, then they can go and watch it on OTT. In OTT, you can't hope for the film to be discovered. In fact, when an OTT film poster is put out, sometimes you wonder whether it's a theatrical release or OTT release. And then you look for it in the theatre, it's not there, it's gone to OTT. So it's a theatrical release.
So that's another thing, guys, I would like to touch upon, which is related to distribution, is actually marketing, right? And one gets a sense that because the platforms are so disintegrated, our eyeballs are going to so many places. Do you think it's become harder and harder to market as from before? Because sometimes people don't even know a movie's come to the theater, or was it an OTT release? Did it come, or is it supposed to release? Everyone's on Instagram, some of them are on Facebook, many others are not watching TV anymore, newspapers are gone. Do you think it's harder to reach out and tell the public that a film is playing in a particular platform, or a film is playing in a particular theater, it's already out? Do you think it's much harder now than it was before, Shibasish? I'll start with you.
So definitely marketing for a theatrical and marketing for a OTT happens in a very different way. Marketing for OTT actually starts on the Friday when they drop.
Right.
They hardly do some PR interviews before that, because their objective is that the discovery mechanism should start happening when it is available.
The algorithm should do the job.
Yes, algorithm should do the available, and whether Shibasish or Mayank should get excited to look at the poster when he will just go and check that the film is available or not. For theatrical, the scenario, honestly, and I'm talking purely from an Indian scenario point of view, that last 18 months scenario has dramatically changed. There are certain mediums which pre-pandemic there used to be a lot of focus, but has completely lost relevance from marketing point of view. One is the television, and one is probably largely the print medium. The focus of advertisement purely has gone into digital, purely has gone into out-of-home hoardings and etc. of the situation. And the hard part of the scene is that, and also the point which Sunil mentioned, that historically, at least previously, a big films one is to market for at least 8 weeks kind of a scenario, if not 6 weeks. There is a trend in between that people are marketing 4 to 3 weeks and releasing a film. Contra theory is in case of Brahmastra, they have marketed the film almost like 3-4 months. So no correct pattern is following, but because the movies have been performing so badly over last 18 months that it is coming on the box office and it is just getting vanished, even if you can see the marketing, it is not registering in your mind. Like if you talk of city like Bombay, I think every film you find large hoardings of buffering or paid by the owners or whatever, right? But it is not registering in your mind. That means the communication is not registering. The producer must be spending an equivalent amount of money in the two mediums what you want to choose. But audience, since audience have multiple options now, audience have options of looking at content in app or content in OTT or a web show in OTT or live events or games. Film is a much lesser importance from a point of view to get that audience attention. If you get that attention, the same amount of marketing or not the same amount of marketing is doing the wonder. In Pathan, there is a lot of excuse that, okay, the Shah Rukh has not came out the way Shah Rukh generally comes out in movie. It has done in the day one is a very high number, right? So yes, marketing for theatrical is getting tougher because audience attention is divided now. An audience does not necessarily look with the same level of seriousness for theatrical films what used to look earlier, in spite of or despite of sometime having big heroes or big star cast or not. That's also not a parameter. If the first promo or sub poster excites, then he probably is continuing the journey. If it is not excite, as much as you can hammer, he's not excited about it.
So the problem is 3 years back, I am head of marketing for a studio, let's say head of marketing for Reliance. What is my objective? My objective is that 6 films are going to release on a specific week, including Hollywood and Indians, how do I market my film to this audience that they should watch my film? What's happened in 2022 is that I am not sure whether that person is going to visit theatre or not because of that change in habits. So what we are, hopefully, what this film, Pathan, is going to do is make more and more people appreciate the joy of watching a film in the theatres. Earlier, my problem was, oh, how do I market my film? And I will go whole out. I'll do Bombay Times. I will do entertainment ads. Entertainment ads, by the way, are not happening now. It doesn't matter, right? Now my problem is, how do I make people come into the theatre? Because if they come into theatre, there's a chance that my film will also be seen.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and I think for regional films, we leave the how to get people to the theatre problem to the Hindi films, right? Because largely they have the budgets. Regional films, you know where the audiences are in general, right? So Punjabi, you know that 40% of Punjabi box office comes from Australia, UK, US and all. So you market it in Canada and all that, and rest is Punjab. Bengali 100% comes from
That can be more targeted, right?
More
Because
targeted. So you know it's like a finite audience, you know where they are. 20% of a Malayali box office comes from Dubai, so you go to the Middle East and do that. Rest is all local, one state, right? You don't have to market the dubbed version. You don't do that because A, you don't have the money, and secondly, at the initial stages, it's a little waste of money because only when word of mouth travels do people then come and watch a regional language feature film. So it's more finite, more targeted. Marathi is 100% Maharashtra. There's hardly any audience outside of Maharashtra and so on and so forth. So it's slightly more easier because the task of getting people to come to the theatre can't be done by the regional language in their budgets. It has to be done by some breakthrough, Pathan and RRR. Only they can get the people back. The second interesting thing that's happened is I have first time heard Ranbir Kapoor speak in Telugu in Vijayawada when he was promoting Brahmastra, right? Or Ramcharan come to Gaiety Galaxy and create a riot outside the theatre for RRR. So I think this cross marketing has begun to also happen to bring audiences back.
I'm going to come to you, Ning, and our understanding of Chinese box office is very limited at this point. And the big problem that India is facing, and which is something we discussed, is have people lost the habit of watching cinema on the big screen because of what happened during the pandemic. What happened in China? Was there a similar situation where people stopped going to the theaters, or COVID came, COVID left, and people are just back and nothing changed?
The people watch more and more film on the platforms because it's so comfortable, And I'm sure this pandemic changed the habit of the people. Before maybe you go more, now you prefer to stay home to safer. But I think from the other side, the market is somehow killing himself by the star system. So all the monies come to the big star. So it's almost like a predictable gambling for producers, for financiers, because it's the filmmakers, or let's say the financiers, really study very well the social reaction towards a film. Exactly what the Francis Truffaut in the 60s, I think, he said when a film's market income is over a reasonable range, it's no more talking about the quality artist of a film rather than talking about the social issue. So why this society answer this film in a certain way? I don't answer the other film in the same way. So one part is with blockbuster, another part is very much the social issue. So for the circumstance of the topics you can talk in a film, for example, this moment the film in China goes very well, the family and the country's feeling. So the family is feeling and to feel country's strong feeling. So this is the theme will go well. And the genre will go well, the suspense and the comedy. It's really already tested by the market, you can see. And another thing is if you're gathering the comedian actor, there's always 1, 2, 3. You know, we don't have a lot of very concentrated. If you say, so, okay, I spend no matter how much money, just give me that titles. If you got that elements, the film goes well, almost like a predictable gambling in China market. So it's when happened this film and you release during this Spring Festival holiday, and we says another one is Workers' Holidays, 1st May, last 7 days, and another one is National Holiday, is 1st October, and then for students, film is summer and winter. For the other period, the film is completely dying. But for this period, you try to hit the maximum as a gambler. So it's still predictable.
Sounds a lot like India, actually. Pretty much the same dynamics of the market. You've so far quoted Truffaut, you've quoted Woody Allen. Clearly, you watch movies from everywhere in the world. But what about Chinese movies? Do they look at a market outside of China, or is the viewership so huge that doesn't matter? They don't need to look beyond.
Nowadays, a lot of people doesn't think about outside market anymore. Also because this Ukraine war changed every relationship in the world. So I think at a certain point we're all very conscious about our position and how the world is like a new, I would say, Cold War, but it's a new situation. You have to be very conscious, look at it. So it's everybody aware about the situation.
Coming to India and the one big change, and then you mentioned that, Naveen, in your conversation as well, about how Indians are watching movies from everywhere in India. So it is possible for a Ranbir Kapoor to be watched by someone south of India in their language, which we've actually seen in the reverse direction so far. Pushpa was a huge hit. Of course, RRR was a huge hit. KGF 2 was the biggest blockbuster ever, right? Do you think the reverse trend is not happening yet? When a Bollywood movie gets the numbers that RRR did down south as well? I'll take all of it.
I think, you know,
like Pathan is not really big in Tamil and Telugu versions, right?
No, it is. It is doing
not the same levels that we're talking about.
Not
1400 crore of.
Not the version, but let's say a normal film would go to Kerala and do 20 lakhs. What Pathan is doing is probably 10 times that.
Right.
So, but in Hindi version, which is a good sign as well. You don't necessarily need to dub it in Malayalam for it to be doing well. If that starts happening, that only goes to grow the market.
Does that solve the problem at some level? Because you have pan-Indian films, therefore everything is not dependent on those 6 tentpole releases of Bollywood. There can be a Tamil film that breaks the big numbers. There could be a Telugu film, and likewise Kannada. Of course, I didn't even know Bangalore made movies until these 2 massive successes.
So I think the success of selective South films in the North India market, and which also has created a lot of myth that South film industry is doing well and not North, which I believe is absolute data. If you look at it, is probably is in both all the industry in equivalent situation. But coming back to the main issue first, I think this trend of seeing South Indian film by Northern audience, it is nothing to do with cinema. It started, say, 10 years back, when this film started coming in a dubbed version in Sony, Setmax and Star Plus of the world. We as a Hindi audience first started loving those rooted stories, which used to come from maybe a junior NTR, Ramcharan or anyone's film, whether we don't used to know the actor, but we start loving those films. Then came a period, if you look at the last 2.5 years, what has happened is that few selective, again larger than life films have done extraordinarily well all India. Now, you count them in last 2.5 years from pre-pandemic time, and I'll take one language at a time. You take Telugu. including Telugu market and including Indian market, the films which are successful, probably Triple R, probably Pushpa, probably Upena. It was a small film which did well in Telugu. Probably Jhadi Toli. And probably now all the way after 2 years in the Pongal, the last two films, the Veerasimha Reddy and Walter.
Sita Raman.
Right. So almost in 2.5 years, if you want to say what are the successful Telugu film, forget about North India, you will count to 5 or 6. There was another Shekhar Kamula film which did well, maybe 6 films, 7 films. Same situation in Tamil. If you count, you will probably end up with 2 Shiva Karthikeyan film, probably 1 Sultan, 1 Karnan, and these 2 Pongal film again, Ajit and Vijay's film. So what is happening as a good scene, and I'll take the point what Sunir was saying, the films which are doing well, probably doing well largely across India. Not necessarily Hindi films have still not able to crack the dubbed market of that, because for the same reason Hindi stars are beyond a point not popular. There is no Hindi films satellite or digital goes in the dubbed version. You have to give that 5-10 years period to develop that market, which South has done in the reverse manner, because we are very used to seeing dubbed film in the television and the OTTs of the world. But by and large, it's a good scene that, okay, you will have 3 or 4 big Hollywood films, 5 or 6 Hindi film, and probably 5 or 6 Tamil Telugu films. So all put together, you have a bucket.
Let's not forget Kannada. Yeah.
When I'm saying South, I'm saying basically taking the 3 or 4 markets. So you will have a bucket of 10 to 14 films. When you talk to somebody in the PVR and Inox, they are not necessarily looked at what is happening on Hindi and etc. In the 52 weeks, how do I do programming? I have a chance of getting 10 to 15 films. I have a chance of making at least half of the revenue or a quarter of the revenue, or what are the kind of revenue I should look at. So that's where the market is paving to.
Right. Which obviously brings us to the final part of this conversation. I'd like to see if there are any questions that the audience might want to ask. Yeah, perfect.
Hello. My question is for all. Anybody can give. Don't you think pandemic actually helped regional cinema, whole India, to watch because of OTT?
Do you think the OTTs were responsible for
Pandemic.
I think you are absolutely correct. It is not only regional cinema, because that 2 years, in an unnatural way, when people are forced to be at home, we started consuming, why regional? We started consuming Korean, Taiwanese, Hollywood, any kind of films. And that is probably one reason our benchmark of quality cinema as an audience has gone up so much that we are not used to see anything average. If anything comes average, we started disliking it. You were absolutely correct. I think there's a lot of consumption of content has happened when people were at home.
And then second, hello, Pathan actually was more hit because of reverse publicity. Do you think?
You mean negative publicity? Is that what you mean?
Yes, yes.
So, generally speaking, when something doesn't work, it's because of A, B, C, D, E, F. I took Drishyam 2 example. Then nobody wanted all those things, but now it has worked. The first thing people say is it was available on OTT, but not available in Hindi dub. So it doesn't matter. They were not giving that rider earlier. In Pathan, whether something, actually there's no publicity in terms of what a producer or a studio would end up doing. In South, the superstars, they don't do as much promotion because they feel the audience needs to come to the theatre to watch them. In Pathan, if a film like this would have happened 3 years back, it would have been a different sort of a marketing experience. So we cannot say, as I said, things happen. And when things happen for good, which is in case of Pathan, we'll find 50 good reasons for that.
It's a good film, just go and see it, enjoy it, don't analyze too much.
Yes, please. Actually, our Indian film market was started in 1930. To 1931, we were silent. Then 1931 to every decade, we changed our mind. But the mind changed by production. But after pandemic, the film mind is changed by the public. How production will work on it. If I am a producer, how I have to work for this to go with the flow of the mind of the public, as you said. Every time we people need every new situation, every new film, every new concept. So how the production should have to work on this. Actually, before once, the ball was in the court of the production to change the mind of the public. As per their mood, the mood will change of the public, of the viewers. Now, the ball is in the court of the public. As we want to see RR kind of films, we want to see Bahubali kind of films. As we want, you have to make this kind of scenario has been started. So how the producers have to, how the directors have to work on it.
So I think everybody has to work harder now. You have to work harder because everybody from Andheri to Malad has work now. Everybody. The junior most technician has got 5 films to do, 3 OTT shows, 5 television shows, and the senior most guy is also busy. Everybody shooting, right? So you don't get dates, you don't get the price points, everything. We are at a perfect storm right now. There's a lot of work, a lot of content is being created, and I think a lot more today. If let's say 12,000 crores is spent by Indian film industry in making content, OTT will become 12,000 crores in the next 2-3 years. So we'll have 30-40,000 crores of rupees going to creating content in different platforms. So everybody has to work harder. There's no formula. You just keep working harder.
One more question I have, that social media has affected the Indian and world film production. Like on social media we have seen a lot of discussions. It has affected to the film producers or the production houses?
Can you explain that question? Do you mean like these boycott type campaigns?
Like boycott type of campaigns also, and other things also. Like we discuss every time. I'm telling you, we discuss every time.
Okay.
That we want, like, if one picture has come, as you said, after 5 minutes of that watching the picture, they give the reviews. So, like this, is it affected to the film scenario or the future of our film cinema?
I think it's an interesting question. I mean, what kind of relationship has social media established in terms of its direct impact on box office? Is that something that one looks at deeply? Like, what is the buzz? Buzz can be created in that first minute of the film playing in a theater. Has it made it harder?
So, see, technology and the information flow will always grow and develop, right? Now, to address, I mean, there are two ways of looking at it. If I look at that, what are the things which has got affected in the scenario? Now, the platform is available to anyone and everyone to talk, correct? As you correctly said, that there are not now 10 reviewers in the country, there are some 100 reviewers. Now, half of those 100 reviewers as the overall ecosystem are also paid reviewers. Now, audience are smarter. Audience either believe or don't believe. In 5 minutes down the line of a show, people start tweeting about it or talking about it. In the same spirit, if the film is doing well, then the producer must be thinking, oh, more noise should come through the social media because my film is doing well. And sometimes when the film doesn't do well, it makes it more destructive because you still try to protect a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday, but you got completely destroyed by 2 o'clock itself, that the movie has completely failed. So, the way I believe that yes, social media definitely disturbed the plan or the trend or the way a producer would have ideally wanted to market or wanted to communicate the scenario. But audience are far superior than what is coming in the social media. We rarely find a situation that audience will get swayed by a social media and give a verdict. Either they like it or dislike it first 1 or 2 days or first half day of the Friday, there may be some disturbance. But if a film is being liked, then it picked up from there. If a film is not being liked, irrespective of whatever happens in the social media or euphoria gets created, audience does not go. So audience is far more superior or intelligent. I mean, there used to be a time, Mayank or Sunir, you guys will be knowing, people used to, I mean, the producer distributors see that how much physical ticket is getting black on a single screen. You make your measure. अच्छा इतना ticket black हो रहा है मतलब मेरा movie hit हो गया. क्या कौन सा single screen का सामने कितना houseful board लगा है. Now अभी same trend is now come on your phone. Now you can't deny that. I mean, that's the world. There are situations which should have been avoidable. People as a community we should have not gone into many paths and used the social media in a manner. But I still believe that audience is far more superior and far more intelligent. So it affects, but ultimately audience verdict is fine. I mean, we have to accept that as an audience, but we can move.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, at the back, what if you like? Yeah. Last two questions. I think we're also getting delayed. Yeah.
Someone giving me a mic, or should I?
Yeah, we can give you a mic.
Yeah. Once upon a time, I mean, the Prime Minister said we need 30,000 theatres. Post the pandemic, do we still need 30,000 theatres?
It's a good question. I mean, that was the big discussion that everyone always had, that we are under-screened, we don't have as many. Look at China. China has about 10 times, 20 times our number. We're not able to fill up the ones that we have now.
So, honestly, I'll just share my view. I know everybody may have a different view on that. Why 30,000? We should have 70 or 80,000 theatres in the country. Completely personal thought process, but I mean, again, as you look at the data, even in the early 2000s, say 2004, 2005, Indian cinema used to have around 12,000 odd cinemas. And like a cliche, but I'm bringing in the China story, and China used to have around 7,000, 8,000 cinema screens. Today they're sitting at 80,000 plus. We are sitting at probably the same 10, 12,000. But I'll tell you where, even if you look at China, and I follow their box office very regularly as just a habit and etc. Even the biggest of the films, probably at the box office occupancy is going to 17%, 18%, 20% kind of an occupancy, but it gives the volume or the value. Now one may ask a question that how will that ecosystem happen? If an ecosystem happens that somebody has invested in a cinema and it is operating at a 15, 16, 17, 20% occupancy, while the overall value is significantly high, and that's why today China is giving billion-dollar movies and we are still not there. We are still getting excited if there is a $100 million film. But that ecosystem works because largely there is a substantial part of government's investment, government's ecosystem working there. It can't happen for a private sector investing in a cinema industry or exhibition industry and assuming the loss and looking at the overall ecosystem to grow. So in a country like a 140 crore population, if you look at our country, if you drive 50 kilometers out of Bombay, I mean you don't have to travel far, you drive 50 kilometers out of Bombay, you will not find a cinema in hundreds of kilometers. I mean if you take like say Goa highway, like you go to Chiploon, you go to Ratnagiri, in one city you will find at best one rundown cinema. People have enough money, people have enough cash, but that families or that audiences, we are not even trying to capture. We are pushing them back to another platform where there is an alternative platform. So the reason or probably it will work reverse. If we have that significant number of cinemas, or at a certain level of hygiene and a certain level of decency, families will come back. And if the families come back, even at a much lower occupancy, it will attract a larger level of consumer to build the ecosystem, which will also improve the production ecosystem or the industry ecosystem or the per se. Completely my personal view.
I absolutely agree with this. In fact, I think that we are badly under-screened. We need more screens. There are patches and patches of the country where there are no theatres at all. Nobody will travel more than 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers to see a movie. I mean, even earlier when Inox opened in downtown, I mean, we want to go and see a movie. We say, who will travel so far to see a movie there? So we don't go there. So I think unless and until we have at least 30 to 40,000, we are making between 1,800 to 2,000 films every year. I mean, 2018 now, I think we'll reach the frequency very soon. And we have far more storytellers in the country than any other country has. And we have far more languages and far more stories to tell. So I think till we reach a 30, 40,000 screen count, and I'm sure there are efforts people are doing to get the math right in getting those count, I don't think we'll see a $1 billion movie. There are $4 billion movies in China. We have still not reached 2,000 crores as a box office for one film. So I think we need screens. I mean, there's no debate on that. It's just a question of the economics of it and how does it work and what is the gestation period in getting the money back and so on and so forth. But I think we need screens, no doubt about it.
Thank you for this. So therefore that means that we are not
in fact the other point of that is, of the screens that Shibasish said, there are 30-40% screens, single screens, which are in a very bad condition. In fact, some of them shut down in the pandemic. I think more of them will shut down, and they should shut down. Because who will go today when the taxi driver who watches Bhojpuri film is driving an Uber, which is an air-conditioned car, why do you expect him to sit in a theatre, dilapidated seats, and one fan dangling from the ceiling, poor quality audio? Why will he go there? He'll say, no, I'll watch the Bhojpuri film on YouTube. In fact, if you go to Book My Show, you can actually book a Bhojpuri movie ticket on Book My Show. On a 60 rupee ticket, Book My Show charges 17 rupees convenience fee. The taxi guy is willing to pay that. Because where is the theatre to watch it, right? So we have to build those theatres. These theatres have to shut down. I know there are some people working on even, revamping these theatres and all, long-term project. But the math is different, the industry is different, somebody has to do that, somebody has to fix that.
So therefore, the question I was are we overproducing also? Because see, what happens is, once a big film comes in and takes in all the theatres, some smaller good film does not get a chance to release.
It's a function of market forces. If capital is available, if somebody is willing to fund a film, the movie will get made. Whether it gets distributed, make money is a different question. But it's a market force. As long as that capital is available, the film will get made.
The question is, in China, if they went from 8,000 screens to 80,000 screens and government was supporting that growth, what has that resulted in for the Chinese economy or the ecosystem, or somebody's taking, are you aware if the cinema running cost and at lower occupancy can't be justified if you are building so many screens? So there must be some non-business related aspect which is resulting in this growth coming.
You are absolutely correct. I mean, which is a larger economic question, right? Now, if by a means that if we both the countries have same population now, both of us are talking 140 crore population, right? Now, in the same population, if one country has gone to say $1 billion kind of movie, that means that money is going where? That money is not going out of the country. That money is coming back either to industry, whether it is an employment, whether people are making more spend. So you are building up the overall ecosystem. You are absolutely correct that you can't run an ecosystem of an exhibition business with a 10%, 15%, 20% occupancy. On a standalone basis, private sector is not getting there. But if the private sector, if even on a value basis, if the overall industry size has been growing, that means there is a larger ecosystem of people or larger ecosystem of the industry who has been thriving. It is like you are subsidizing one sector for a thriving another.
What I'm saying is that maybe the films, if you look at the top 10 films coming out from China over the last 3, 4, 5 years, you will find one common thread in 90% of the movies. They are, even if it's a comedy, it will be about their, national pride. The war films are doing $700 million, $800 million, the Battle of Tianjin, Wolf Warrior, and so on and so forth. A lot of these films are talking about their country, and maybe the government has an incentive to help these films go to larger audiences because it instills and it builds a sense of a national pride. So if government is supporting that, obviously they are getting something in return. And here, the similar kind of a thing, everybody says we should be 30,000 screens because of one bar graph, that we have so many people and we have so many screens. Look where US is, look where UK is. So we need more screens. What happens when you build those screens and people don't come and watch the films? The business cannot support itself.
But to add to the point, every country is doing the same. India is doing the same. We have got nationalistic and patriotic films. Marathi industry.
No, sir. I am making a different point. I am saying the if you are incentivized to build screens which result in some other benefits which are not purely economic.
That's fine. That's always there. That's absolutely fine. That's fine.
Last question, guys. Right. Yeah, I mean, I wish we had someone from the multiplex business here to address that question. Right. And National Cinema Day, where they sold tickets for $75. 99, yeah. 75 was that? Yeah.
That was.
Even Amitabh Bachchan movies were packing halls when the ticket price went to 99, I think.
But what this movie is telling us now, I watched Pathan at $600 in PVR Juhu. I mean, look at the collections. So people have money, it's one of those things. At one point, on one fine Friday or Saturday, if I have a decision now to make, do I stay at home and watch Action Hero, which was released last night, or do I go and watch it in the theaters? Everybody knows tickets are expensive. They are probably today at the same level as the US cinema ticket. They must be around $8, $10, right? So tickets are more or less in India are at the same pricing. So relative to the global players, I think we are. No, it's not about. What I'm saying is, in this country, there's market for everything. I don't want to pay $400 for popcorn, but I'm okay to pay $600 for a ticket. So it's a problem which everything is related.
And on the multiplex side, they're saying that they've actually only raised the price by 7 to 8%, which is not even below regular inflation. But that's their point. I mean, they can't make money. Yeah. Going back, it's like 30,000. Right. Final question, guys.
Hi.
Yeah.
So in a way, we sort of have established through this panel discussion that one way for...
No, we've only established one thing, that nobody knows anything.
No, but one way we can look at, bringing people back to theaters is, a big spectacle or a larger film of sorts. So are we exploring, say, inter-industry collaborations and working on, say, multilingual sort of big spectacle, big budget movies that we can look at? And I think this is a pipe dream for quite a lot of people, say some, a universe. This is another trend that's happening. So a universe, say when we're building or we're coming up with a story like Mahabharata or Ramayana, would that be a good way to explore, or are we doing this?
It's already happening, right? It's already happening. Brahmastra has Amitabh Bachchan, has Shah Rukh Khan, has Ranbir Kapoor.
But it's
Look
also not true that. It's also not true. It's also not true that you make a big spectacle film, it will run. You will have 10 of those, and the heart of a film industry is in those 30-40 films, other films which are not big spectacle films, which will come and make people come into theaters. Today, does a 14-year-old want to be excited about coming for a normal Bollywood film, or would he rather be watching football or cricket or be on TikTok is not here, but be on Reels or something like that? We have to make good films.
But that's happening, right? So you look at Vikram, right? It has Kamal Hassan, it has Vijay Sethupathi, it has Fahad Fazil. I mean, you can't get bigger than that. Look at Pathan. It's got 3-4 superstars. I mean, multi-stars, a big one. They're already happening.
This is obviously part of the SCO Film Festival. I'm going to end this conversation with a quick question because it would be great to get some film recommendation from you guys. If there's one film in your language or your region that you think the whole world should watch, what should it be? I'm going to start with you, Ning. One Chinese film that you think the whole world, if there was no need of distribution, it could just pop in your phone in any case. One Chinese film that you think the whole world should watch. Well, my question is, which is your favorite Chinese film?
I'm sorry, but it's like a sport question.
Okay, maybe three movies that you think everyone should watch. The Sholay of China. The Sholay is a movie here, by the way.
You mean the new films or the old?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There is a Shi Hui's movie. It's called This Is My Life. It's
This
a
Is My
movie
Life.
in the 50s about a policeman and his life through differences of policy under differences government. It's like a novel emotion of a person from the middle age until the old age. So it's
This Is My Life.
yeah.
I'll give you 3 or 4 because we do 10 regional languages. You should see Love Today in Tamil. I think it's an outstanding film. You must watch it. Small budget, low budget, unknown stars, but remarkable at the box office. You should see Jaya Hey, Jaya 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 Hey in Malayalam. Terrific.
Jaya Jaya Jaya, right?
Jaya Jaya Jaya
Not
Hey. Jaya
Is there
Hey.
hair also in it?
No, Hey Hey.
Jaya Jaya Jaya?
Jaya Hey.
Okay.
A wonderful film in Malayalam. You should see Saukhe Saukya in Punjabi. Brilliant, outstanding story. Never told before in Punjabi that also did very well. You should see Kutch Express in Gujarati. The last one is still running in the theatre in Bombay. It's a wonderful film that you should watch. So these are 4.
Have you just plugged all your movies in this?
No, these are not.
I'm just checking.
These are not mine.
Okay.
My movies are on Amazon Prime. I'll not name them now. Thank you. Yeah.
Sunir?
You should watch Vikram Veda in Hindi, and you should watch Dobara, which was my film.